There it goes. And take it away. So I received a notification from Google and YouTube that before I start broadcasting, I should I need to ask every time, is everybody's okay being online? I guess it's a privacy thing. And so if anyone has a problem with that, just let me know. Okay, so we are going to, last class, let's see. We talk about parameters and the different type of parameters. If you recall, we talk about project parameters and shared parameters. And we started understanding how Revit manages custom information and how we can add additional information to the elements we want to quantify and schedule inside our models. And I show you how to the difference between project parameters and shared parameters, and this is important because it's basic Revit 101. The project parameter is unique to the project. You create it on the fly, associate to elements, but it only lives in that model. And you can only schedule elements in that particular model, and you cannot tag elements. And if you need to aggregate information from multiple models, and you need to tag information in your floor plan about those elements, then we need to use shared parameters. And shared parameters, it's a parameter definition that is retrieved from a centralized text file or a dictionary file. And this dictionary contains information about what's the name of the parameter and what kind of information it reports. And so I also show and open a shared parameter file, and I show you that the way Revit makes sure that the information is consistent between model and model is because it assigned the same identification number, and that identification number in Revit is called GUID, the Global Unique Identifier. And as long as multiple models share the same GUID, then this information will stack in a schedule and a tabular display. So shared parameter files should be unique to a practice or to a company, and they should be in a centralized location where it's available to all the users. All right, but we didn't create any parameters, so I'm going to, is it the model? I don't think this is the model. It's the Rack Advanced Sample Project. All right, so we're going to create custom parameter, and then we're going to shift into area plans. All right, so in this model, which I think everybody has it, if you don't have it, let me know in the chat panel. Just click on the link in the chat panel to download this data set. In the project browser, you're going to find a schedule. There are different types of schedules in this project. The ones you may probably relate the most is the door schedule. And this is a tabular display of information at an instance and type properties of information in the project. This is the metadata contained by the project. And so if we want to report that information, then you can build the schedules and define what are the parameters. Okay, I think Charles, you need the link. Let me pull it for you again, because I think you may have called after I posted that link.
Yeah, in the chat panel, actually, there are two attendance sheets, links.
Oh, okay. So this is the get link, copy link, and this is the set. There you go. Okay, so a schedule, it's a tabular display of parameter values of instance and type parameters of objects of the same category. Take a look, for example, at the schedule. The furniture schedule under the schedule and quantity branch in the project browser. This is an example that collect information about all the different types of furniture in the project, condense it. You can count the number of entities, and you can even extract the cost. And so let's look at another example. Here is a landscape schedule, and this is just a summary of all the trees in the project and the total count. There's another one here, the parking schedule, which counts this is the aggregate number of spaces in the parking lot. You might find this useful when you need to report this information to the approving agency. Room finishes is another type of schedule. This is a schedule of room objects, and all this information is embedded inside the room entities of the room instances. And so they are putting together a schedule is very easy, something very easy to do. Let's go back to the door schedule. So the door schedule will report information contained by each and every door instance. Now, this is reporting the door ID, which is the what you see in the first column. And if you want to highlight in the project what is the element that you're looking at, you can just select a row in the door schedule, and then the upper right side corner there is something called highlighting model. And what this will do, it will open a view that contains a visible display of that door. Here you go, like this open floor, the ground level 103, and it actually zoomed to the extent of that instance. And so you can tile these views side by side, and you can confirm whether the information contained by the room is appropriate or not. I'm going to disable selection by face. This is all the instance information that you can schedule in the door category. Instance, because it's unique to entity. And then you can also schedule as part of that all the different type parameters. So all these different, the instance parameter and the type parameters are parameter values that you can include in a door schedule. There are parameters vary in the type of information they report. So these, for example, anything you see under the identity data, these are text. This is text information, meaning that you just type something and it will be reported. You also have dimensional parameters. Like this cell only inputs this. You cannot come here and add a letter or anything because the cell is formatted to only report a certain type of parameter types. There are other type of parameters that are called yes/no parameters. These are checkboxes. And the only thing you can enable here is yes or no. Yes, it means a checkbox enable. No means a checkbox disable. There are other parameters that report materials. The door material, for example, and the frame material, when you hit this cell, let me cancel here. When I hit this cell, then the only thing you can input here, or you can launch the material library, and then you can pick material from the material browser. And so the reporting cells of the parameters are built to display different type of information. And when we create a custom parameter from scratch, we need to decide basically three things. We need to decide where we're going to group that parameter. So that's the first thing. Where to group. We also need to decide what type of information is going to report. Info type. So is it dimensions? Is it materials? Is it text? So we need, when we create a custom parameter, we need to decide that what is going to report. And lastly, we need to also report what is the name. And the name is important because when it comes to type parameters, the name, and share parameters, the name needs to be consistent across all the different models. And in Revit, the capitalization matter. And so we need to make sure that we type things in formula the same way it is capitalized. So let's create a share parameter, and let's see. When you look at these doors information, notice that there isn't information about the glazing type. And glazing type is something that you may want to include in doors. And so we need to create a new parameter that's associated to the door category, but we're going to make it a share parameter because we also want to schedule it and tag it. One second, I'm going to close this window. All right, so so the first thing we need to do is go to the share parameters. And so go to the manage tab, and then you're going to find the share parameters button. Now, this may not be true for you. I have, from my previous class, created a new share parameter file. So this may be completely empty on your end. Or if you're working from your workstation in your computer from work, this probably is mapped to your company share parameter file. Now, I don't want to mess with this file that you're working on. So I'm not gonna add new parameters in this existing parameter file that's on your end, but I am going to create a new parameter file from scratch. So from here, again, you go to the Manage tab, and then you go to the Share parameter. So Revit is asking, it seems like you want to create a new parameter, but I need to be able to access a text file where all these definitions are stored. So you can browse to connect an existing text file, but what I'm going to do now is going to create a new share parameter. And I'm going to give this name. I'm going to save this file under my D drive. You may want to save it also in a place that you can retrieve it. And I'm just going to call it share parameters, share dash parameters. This is a brand new share parameter file. And then I'm going to save it. Now, in the context of office production, most likely you will never have to create a new parameter file from scratch. You only tap to the centralized location where this file is. All right, this is the new parameter file I created. And the next step is to create a parameter group. I cannot create a new parameter if I don't have a group. What is a group? A group it's the header under which we organize our parameters. So for example, look at this property, this underlay, it's a group. And then so I need to create custom groups inside Revit. And you can name the groups any way you want. So because I'm creating parameters associated with doors, I'm going to create a new group called doors. And every custom parameter that I build around doors, I can place it on this group. And as you create new groups, they're going to be visible on this drop-down list. The next I'm going to do is, if you made a mistake, you can rename it or you can delete the group. After you create the group, notice that the new button parameter is highlighted, it's available to you. So I'm going to create a new parameter. And these are the information that's going to be hard-coded in the parameter. It's the name, the discipline, and the type of information it will report. So in this case, I want to report what type of glazing type. And then this, for the most part, the discipline it belongs to. This is going to, for our purpose, is always going to be common. And then the type of parameter we want the glazing to report. If you've done, I'm sure you've done door schedules in the past, and glazing types are usually coded as in the specs as letter, you know, G1, G2, G3. I mean, that's how I used to do it. So I'm gonna code it to report at text type of information. But these are all the available formats to you. You can report integers, angles, area, coast, distances, length, mass, slope, times, material, image. So the cell information in the Revit interface can report a wide range of parameter types. The ones that are mostly used is the text, distance for length, area for square footages, number or integers, slope sometimes, and material. There's also this yes, no, which will create a checkbox. We're going to do one later. So glazing type, it's reporting text information, and then you hit OK. The parameter is created in the share parameter file. So let's create another one. Let's create a new parameter, and let's type this. Let's call this responsibility. Maybe some doors are not in contract, or in the name, let's just call it NIC, not in contract. And in the type of parameters, we're going to do a yes, no. So what that means is that that door is going to have a new checkbox with the parameter name NIC, and you can actually use it to filter out those doors that are not in scope. And these are just some examples. I mean, you can come up with your own examples. Now, here's the thing. Once a parameter is created, you cannot change the internal properties. So, for example, when you explore the internal properties of the glazing type, notice that all of this is grayed out. And if you later decide that, oh, I made a mistake in the name, or I was the wrong type parameter, there's nothing to do. You have to delete the parameter and then add a new one. The default properties of the parameter are locked after it's created. All right, so I created two parameters. You can think of other things that are missing in this door schedule and add them. So I'm now gonna hit OK here, and then these two parameters are available for us to use. Any question here? All right, so let's create and associate this parameter as a project parameters. Once I create the share parameter file and the two parameter definitions, then I go to the project parameters. And this is a way to add parameters into the project. So notice that this project already have 7 or 8 parameters, but I'm going to add a new one. And this is the parameter property dialog box. Here, you define whether the parameter is a project parameter or a share parameter. We're going to do share parameters. And when you do that, notice that the parameter data grayed out. If I'm in a project parameter, all of this can be customized. But when I switch to a share parameter, the parameter data gets grayed out. Why? Because all that information is contained in the text definition of the parameter. Then you go to the select button, and this automatically open the share parameter file, and I'm going to select the glazing type. And as soon as I do this, all this information it's populated. And so one of the purposes of the share parameter file is to make sure that all the users really apply the same parameter data consistently between model and model, and you don't have misalignment of parameter types or disciplines or naming conventions. So I brought that text parameter. Then I need to decide, is this parameter going to be a type or an instance? And you should know this by now. Right? Is this property part of the door types? Meaning, is it going to be visible on the edit type? Or is it going to be an instance parameter in which it will be available in the instance properties? So this is glazing type, and I'm going to make it unique. I mean, we're going to review what is the glazing for each of the doors, depending on the condition. So it's going to be an instance parameter. Then I need to decide where in the instance properties this is going to be grouped. These are the default Revit parameter groups. This is, I'm defining some kind of construction type. So I'm going to put this under the construction group. And the groups, again, are the way Revit organizes information inside the instance parameter. And so you cannot add new groups types. This is all you have. So this list is fixed. We're gonna edit it, and then you pick where in the instance properties you want to include this parameter. I'm gonna put it on the construction group. And then on the categories on the right, I'm going to associate this parameter to the door category. So scroll down, find the doors, and that it's it. Now notice that there is something called, there is a checkbox here that is grayed out. It's for reference. It says that for every door in the project, this new parameter is going to be visible for you. All right, so we hit OK here and hit OK. And where's that parameter? Well, select a door. And when you scroll in the properties of the door, you're going to see now under the construction group, which is what we picked, the glazing type parameter, and it's reporting text units. And now here you can start adding what kind of glazing this door has. Obviously, the single flush door, according to this type, doesn't seem to have one. But let's say, for example, this vision, single flush vision type. I'm going to switch that door to single flush vision. And in the glazing type, you can say GL1, which is a code for a specified glazing type, and you can build it from there. Now, these parameter that is going to be available for every door existing in the project, and it's a custom parameter that I include into the project. And because it's shared, I can tag this into the doors, and I can also schedule it. All right, let's do one more. Let's add one more share parameter so that we understand the concept. This time we're going to include the non-in-contract checkbox. Again, so we go to the Manage tab, and then we go to Project Parameters. And we're going to add a new parameter. And we're going to load that parameter from the share parameter file. Click the Select button and navigate to the door group of share parameters and select the NIC. And then notice how the parameter data automatically pre-populate based on the information I input before. And I'm going to put it on the other. That's fine. And associate that parameter to the door category. So again, switch to share parameters, select the glazing, the NIC parameter from the list. Associate to the other, associate to the doors, and let's make it an instance as well, and then hit OK. Hit OK. And now every time I select a door, if you scroll down the list of properties, you're going to find under the other category a checkbox called NIC. And then you can include or exclude this door as part of your schedules as needed. That makes sense? So that's how we add additional custom information to Revit objects. And so that's the primary difference between private parameters and shared parameters. And I'm going to repeat it because it's going to be in the test next Thursday. A private parameter is unique to a project model and can only be scheduled. A shared parameter, it's parameter can be consistent across multiple models, can be tagged and can be shared. Can be both tagged and can be scheduled. So that is the main difference between these two types of parameters. All right. So with that said, I think I'm going to move to the topic of rooms and area plans. All right, so if you open the entry level floor one of this project, you're going to see that right at the center of every space, there is an object that you can select. You just hover over, you're going to see that an X popping up. And that is a room. In a room, it's the interior envelope of a space snap to the faces of the wall, or sometimes you can also define it to snap to the center of the wall. And it'll report information about what's happening inside that door, inside that space. So when you pick a door, when you pick a room and explore the identity data, you're going to find a lot of metadata that is associated with that room. The number, the name, you can add comments, you can add occupancies, you can add the finishes. This is how we build finish schedules, is by creating a room schedule with custom codes for the base, the ceiling, the wall, and the floor. So all this for elements and cells can be filled with finished codes, and you can include it in the schedule. So a room, it's automatically created inside a space. Now, where's the room command? If you go to the architecture tab and hit the room, notice that the room needs to be bounded by elements in order to be created and report information. This is the room. It's actually looking for a place to be hosted. I think this is a shaft and it's empty right now. And then as soon as I place this room inside this closet, well, then you can change this. This is a closet. Now, Revit likes to number elements in an incremental way based on the order of creation of the objects. And so the rooms can receive a placeholder number, and then you can change it later. Like this is probably going to be a one. This probably seems to be the end of the chain. This is 131. That's probably then, let's call it 133. Yeah. You can, but it's not advisable to have the same room number in two spaces. Say, for example, if I rename this lounge, and to pick the lounge, I need to pick the room, and I call it 112 as well. 112 is a redundant number. It's also in the electrical number. And when you do that, you will receive a warning. It's a non-critical warning, but it's just telling you that, two rooms are sharing the same number values. If you get this, just cancel, and it will return the room to its original state. You can share the same name. For example, look at this is instruction. You won't receive a warning when two rooms have the same name, but you will receive a warning if the rooms share the same number. And a room can be created, but it will not report area parameters unless it's bounded by objects. So I'm going to create another room, architecture room. And notice how if I place it just outside here, then I receive this warning. It says that the room is not in a properly enclosed region. And that's because I need this room to be bounded by 4 objects. And so when I select this room and you scroll down, this room doesn't report area, perimeters, or dimensional properties because it doesn't have any wall. Now, as soon as I create a wall or a set of walls around the room will find its boundaries, and now this is enclosed. But I'm going to do this because this was just FYI. All right, this is another very important thing to know about rooms. When a room is created, you can delete it from the view, but it's not going to disappear from the project. And this is a very important concept. This is instruction 108. And I have selected on the screen. And if I delete it, I get this warning that a room was deleted, but still remain in the project. And what does that mean? That means that room 108 is still part of the room schedule. So when you open the door schedule, which I have here, and look for room 108, look at room 108, it's still part of the project. So it hasn't gone away, but it is not present in the view. So what do we do with that? If I deleted a room by mistake, and I'm like, I just find out later on, oh, what happened with my room? I don't know what that is. Then all you need to do is to reassociate the room with the space from the room drop-down list. So when you create a room here, architecture room, rather than creating a new room in the space, check the list of rooms that have been missing. And so these particular checkbox or drop-down list, and again, this is super important, this report unplaced rooms. And oftentimes we forgot that we have this list of unplaced rooms, and we recreate the room over and over multiple times, not unknowingly, not knowing that behind the database, that room is redundant because you are duplicating it multiple times. And so if I want to retrieve the instruction room that I deleted, you can just select 108 instruction from this list, place it, and do nothing because all the data it's preserved in the background and is intact. You don't have to retype any of the information because it was already there. Let's do another example here. I'm going to delete the instruction 117. And this happens quite often because especially if you're doing design options and you're modeling quick and fast, it's very easy to delete rooms. Do remodel, and then when you're done with your design option, rather than creating new rooms, just go to the architecture room. And then in this drop-down list, here is the conference. And here is the instruction. No need to retype anything again from scratch. Okay. So the rooms again contain information about the finishes. If you notice here, we have the base finish, ceiling finish, wall finish, floor finish, and this is text information. Let's, for example, grab the instruction room and let's give it a floor. Let's just do the floor finishes. Let's say this is going to have a carpet 1. And you just type CP1. That's for those who do interiors. We all use codes to designate finishes. You can also control pick multiple rooms. And then under the floor finishes, you will have the data that you previously input as one option. But I'm going to do this as CP2. If I pick another room, this instruction, for example, and I click the floor finish, you are going to see as a drop-down list all the available options that are already retyped. And so in this case, let's say I'm going to go back to CP1. And you can continue going through the building and adding the appropriate finish code. Let's do one more time. Let's see these restrooms. These are tile. So I'm going to pick both the men and the women, and the finished floor, I'm going to do T1 or TL-1, which stands for tile. And I don't know, maybe this lounge has another type of, let's say it has vinyl. And in the wall, in the floor finish of the lounge, I'm just going to type VN or VL 1. So I'm populating the view or the rooms with the appropriate codes. I can also, rather than do it on the view, I can also directly do it on the schedule, and the objects are connected. So open the finish schedule that it's available under the schedule branch. You'll find it here, the room finish schedule. And notice how this room schedule is narrow just to display the second floor. So to remove the filter, just go to the filter here and remove the first filter so that you display all the spaces. And notice here are all the rooms that are receiving that finish. And so you can start populating this one by one, like CPU. You will see the drop-down list of all the available choices to you. And or add new ones. Let's say, for example, this vestibule is going to have, I don't know, some kind of tile or terrazzo 1. You can add additional pieces of information in the schedule, and then you're going to see all the choices available when you hit the drop-down list in every of the cells. All right, so, but how do we build one from scratch? Let's create a new, wait, so before I move to that slot, let me go back to the floor plan here and say that these rooms or these labels have the ability to report the floor finish if you want to tag it. You don't have to do this, but just watch. If I edit the family of this tag, I'm going to make a copy of the label. Copy. I'm just going to put, and then select a label and swap the parameter from the existing list, and I'm going to add the floor finish. And load into the project and replace the parameter values. And now for every label, I'm also reporting the floor finish. Not that you have to do it this way, but this is an option you have in case you want to tag it. And because it's a project parameter or a shared parameter, it can be tagged. This conference room doesn't have a finish. If I go and select it and look at the properties, going to the floor finish, and I'm going to associate with the carpet too. All right, so these were rooms that were already in place. If you go to the third floor, I think, yeah, these also have rooms. Yes. I think they do have rooms. Yeah. All right, so let's just build a new schedule from scratch. Let's build the finish schedule. So when you schedule finishes, when you create any schedule, you do it under the View tab, and then you create a schedule. And we're going to create a schedule of elements. These are all the different type of schedule. You can create graphical columns, but this is mostly used by structural engineers. Material takeoff, the contractor will be interested to do this. A sheet list will create a schedule of all the sheets, and then this can be placed on the front of the documentation. You can create a schedule generic annotations, or you can schedule also the list in your project browser. We're going to do a typical schedule of elements. So you just choose the very first choice. And this is the list of all the elements you can schedule in a project. These are all the categories. And we want to schedule elements of the category of rooms. So look for the room category. Give it a name. Room schedule. I'm going to call it 2 because there's another one already there. And then hit OK. All right, this is important. When you create a new schedule, then you're going to be presented with all the parameters of the room category available to you. In addition to that, you can include project information. So this drop-down list allow me to select elements from other categories. But for example, you can schedule the name, project name, number, client name, etc. But I'm going to stick with rooms. And a typical finish schedule will have the room name and number. So you pick the parameter and then you hit this arrow pointing to the right to add the field into the schedulable list. I'm going to add the name. I'm going to add the number. And then I'm going to add the base finish, floor finish, wall finish, and ceiling finish. And maybe comments. And the order, and this is another important concept, the order you see the parameters from top to bottom is the order in which you're going to see them from left to right in the schedule. So if you need to shift the location of the column in the schedule, just hit this move up or move down. This is important if you want to include elements in the link files. Okay, so that's all I need for the finished schedule. I hit OK, and I create a very similar finished schedule like I had before. Okay, and so I can continue populating this with finishes as needed. I'm just randomly picking some elements here. Now, you can also, rather than do this cell by cell, you can consolidate all the values by a same parameter value and populate them all in the same thing. For example, if all the instruction rooms have the code CP1, I'd rather do them one by one across 300 rooms, you can consolidate it based on the name. So let me show you how to do that. In the properties of the room, you pick sorting and grouping. Notice how it has a checkbox that says itemize every instance. And what this is saying is that every instance in the project will be represented as a row in this schedule. Now I'm going to clear that out. And then I'm going to say sort by name. And that's it. What this does, it consolidates all the rooms by name, but it doesn't list all the instances. And so you can very quickly say, okay, all the instructions are going to have a carpet 1. And all the men in the project are going to have tile 1. And all the women restrooms are going to have tile as well. And then the storage, maybe I do some concrete. So I must say concrete. And the admin also is going to receive a carpet CP2, CP3. So I am consolidating all the rows in a single row. And then I undo that. And I go back to sorting and group. I sort by number. And then I itemize every instance again. Again, sort by number. And notice how I fill pretty quickly almost the entire chart. And all the instructions have exactly the same consistent numbers, so you avoid going through errors. That makes sense. So again, what I did is go to the sorting and grouping, disable itemize every instance, and sort by name. This all I see is just the unique values of the name, and I can apply across all the elements of the same number, the same code. Sheet Y01. And all conference, for example, all conference could be carpet 2. And all corridors will be exposed concrete. And so the lobby is going to have a terrazzo, and the lounge is going to have carpet, and the meeting is going to be carpet 2. So it's easier to input the data in an aggregated mode than it is at an instance by instance level. Then I go back to the sorting and grouping and enable the itemize every instance, and I have the full information available to me. That makes sense? And the same is true for the wall finishes, ceiling finishes, or the base finish. You can say, you can consolidate them and apply them in bulk. I'll go back and fix this because I think I want my rooms to be scheduled by number. So you go back to sorting and grouping and sort by number. And then here, okay. Now it's sorted by the group of column B. All right, what else? I'll need to show you how to the name of the parameter is what you will see in the column header. Sometimes we rename it. For example, and you can consolidate them also under a new group. For example, the base, floor, wall, and finishes. If you highlight the 4 of them, you can group them. And then notice how it creates a new group. I'm going to call it interior finishes. And then you can rename this headers. And all I'm doing is just renaming how it will appear in the schedule, but I'm not renaming the parameter per se. So you could do that as well. Again, all you need to do is select the header of 2 columns, group them, and then give a group name. This is room info. Okay, so now that we learned how to create a new schedule, let me show you how to sort for information so that is easily available. I am going to, for example, help you navigate through the data in the door schedule. So go ahead and scroll down and open the door schedule. This is the door schedule, and it's a long list of elements. You can narrow or filter out your information based on a common parameter value. And those are called working schedules. And this is if somebody's asking you very quickly, hey, what is the number of new doors on level 1? You're not going to start counting one by one. You can use a schedule to extract that information very quickly. And you will do this using the sort and grouping. Now, something I'm going to add to this door schedule is the level as a field. So again, go to the schedule quantities and open the door schedule. Then go to the fields, and we're going to add the level information. So find the level information here and add it. Now the level, notice how it's shown in the last column of this schedule. And it's a lot of redundant information, right? So I can sort of create this, or I can sort of manage the tabular display in a way that it looks more like a pivot table. It's not exactly a pivot table, but it will be more similar. So what I'm going to do here, again, I'm going to repeat what I did. Go to the fields parameter, edit button, and add the level parameter from the left to the right. You use this arrow, green arrow. I'm going to add a new field at the end of the schedule. And so this looks a little redundant. So what I'm going to do is select column I. You just click the entire thing. And I'm going to hide it because I don't want to see it there. But it's still there, and it's a data that I can still use to organize the information. Then I'm going to go to the sorting and grouping, and I'm going to group this information based on the first is the mark, second is the level, and actually it's the opposite. First is the level, and then is the mark. And then I'm going to display the level information as a header. And this is just going to, and I'm going to add a blank line after it. Or maybe not. No, I don't need it. In an ascending order. And then just hit OK. Now I have all the different level, all the information of the doors sorted by level, but the level is displayed as a header. So now that I look at how this turned out, maybe I needed to include the blank information. So in the level, I'm going to add a blank line. And then I go back to the appearance and oh, that's this one. And now I have a blank line above the. So now I have all the entry level doors look nice. All the second floor doors are here, and then all the third floors here. Okay, now let's say very quickly the contractor asks you how many doors are there. Again, you're not going to count them one by one. But you can totalize them. So under the sorting and grouping, again, edit sorting and grouping, hit grand totals, and also under the level, hit a footer and display the totals. So this is going to do a summary of the doors per level. And it's also going to add the grand total at the end. So where they are. I have the grand total here. For me to look at the totals per entry level, let me go back and sort this out. So I have levels. Oh, it's not here. It's on the mark. Let me see. File. No. Oh, I need to add a new parameter called count. The count is going to quantify every instance. So I go back to the fields and then select the count, add it to the end. And if I want the total count below, you just go and display sorting and grouping and display the totals, count and totals. And here it is, 38, 31. And actually you can hide this. And so on the entry level, you have 38. On the second floor, you have 31. And on the third level, you also have 31. You can continue adding filters. For example, you just want to find out all the doors that have a 20-meter rating. And so you can use the filter tool, which is available as well into the door schedule here. And you can say filter by fire rating whose value equal 20 minutes. You can just use this drop-down list. And these are modifiers. Like these allow you to filter information based on ranges or based on values that are equal or are greater or less or contain or does not contain. These are just ways to sort out the information. And then when I apply this filter, the only things displayed in the project are the doors with 20-minute rating and then the total count there. Now, you wouldn't put this in your documentation, but if you want to return it to where it was before, just change the filter to none, and I'm back to where it was before. Any question? And that's exactly what we do with the sheets. For example, sheets, especially in big projects, can take more than when you have your schedule of sheets or your schedule of doors and they don't fit in a sheet. Maybe you want to filter them by level. And so in the first sheet, you show level 1, level 2, and the other one is level 3 and 4. There's a way to break information in multiple schedules. Duplicating schedule is okay, especially if you're going to have different presentation of the same data. You can duplicate a schedule and apply a different type of filter here. Let's do another example. Let's say you want to filter doors whose width is equals to 3. This is just going to show the doors with the width of 3, and then it's going to give me the total count at the bottom of it. And you can continue duplicating schedules as needed. Schedules can be copy pasted across projects. And so if the project have and the beauty of this is that the share parameter will travel with it. So say, for example, you create a new project. You don't have to do this. I'm just going to demo this. I have a blank project here. And this blank project doesn't have any schedule here. And you're asked to create the schedule. Oh, it's here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump to my other project, select the door schedule, right click and copy to the clipboard. You copy to the clipboard the schedule. Then you jump into your other project and then paste it. Just Control V. Hit OK. And I have all the definitions of the door schedule, all the share parameters. Right now it's empty because I don't have any door in my project, but I don't have to type it from scratch. So if you have a very nice door schedule and it hasn't been built in your template, you can copy paste it across multiple projects and it will transfer the share parameter with it. I'm going to close this. This was just a quick tip that might help you and save you time. All right, so let's go back to the entry level. And I want to show you very quickly how to create room schemes. A room scheme, it's a color overlay associated with the room based on a specific parameter value. What that means that you can create very colorful representation of the information based on the data contained by the rooms. I'm going to clean this a little bit. For example, I'm going to duplicate this view because I don't want to modify the original. I'm going to rename it and call this finishes, floor finishes. And then in the floor finishes, I'm going to switch the visibility to, sorry, the course level to course, because that makes the door, the walls look a little better. And like I want to switch off this hatch. The fastest way to do this is using visibility graphics. Then go to floors. And in the floors, in the projection surface, it says pattern, just make the pattern invisible. Disable those checkboxes. Again, I go to the floors, patterns, and disable the visibility of the patterns, and then they're gonna come white. Another thing, I mean, I'm creating like a graphic representation that I'm going to prepare for a client. I'm going to hide in this view the category of the grids, and then I want to push all the walls with a black solid fill. So I go to visibility graphics, and I go to walls. I'm just typing W, it will take me straight to the walls. And I want a cut pattern here, a cut pattern that has a solid fill, color black. So a cut pattern. In the foreground, it's a solid fill and it has black color. And so now I have all the walls, like they look very graphic and they pop very nicely. And I'm going to switch off these markers, hide in view, category. I'm not deleting from the project. I'm just modifying this for this particular project, hiding view category. And these look more like the appropriate background for a graphical project, a graphical presentation. And in this, using this background, I'm going to apply the color scheme. All right, and if you like this, you can save it as a template and then you can apply it to other floors as needed. So the color scheme, it's a color definition applied to the room based on a room parameter value. You can find them under the properties of the view. And where are you? Color scheme, here it is, color scheme. Color scheme, and right now it's set to none. And I want to create a new color scheme. So I'm going to start with the name, but I'm going to duplicate it. These are the color scheme that Revit ships with. In fact, some companies already preload this into their templates, and they have a predefined corporate standards on how they represent space usages. You can build in your RGB colors into your template and just make it accessible to your users. So when you create this type of color schemes, you don't have to apply them from scratch. But I'm going to duplicate an existing scheme, And I'm going to call this finishes. And the title of this scheme definition, it's finish legend. And then I need to pick what is the parameter I'm going to base this color scheme on. I'm going to select the floor finish. And these are all the codes that I have in the project. These are the RGB colors. In Revit 2022, these RGB colors are actually very nice pastel palettes. Nobody used these colors in design. So Autodesk fixed that in the latest release. I'm just gonna make it a little better. So all I do is click the RGB and make it into the pastel range just by sliding up this triangle. So it doesn't look too bold or too ugly. I'm certainly changing the RGB value. And with this palette of colors, I just hit OK. And now I have all my finishes color coded in this plan. And I can also assign a color legend. So under the annotate tab, you have the color field legend here. And the color field legend will report the values of the floor finishes that are existing in the project. Again, annotate tab. I'm going to repeat it again if you fall behind. I'm going to do this here. What I did is in the properties of the view, select the color scheme, select any of them. I'm gonna pick the name and I'm gonna duplicate it and call it finishes. I changed the title to finish legend. And then I changed the parameter to the floor finish. Just to give me a click OK in the warning. And then all I did is click on the RGB color and make it a little more pastel. Or you can change the color altogether if you don't like it. Just click on somewhere in this color picker. And once you have a palette that you like, then you just hit OK, apply, OK. And I have my color legend. Go to the annotate tab. And then go to color field legend, which is going to place a legend for the view. And then you can place this as a nice graphic display and talk about finishes. Now, finishes is just one of the things you can do in color scheme. You can pick any of the parameters. So sometimes you pick admin like usage. So you can have like programming sessions where you have this colorful schemes indicating departmental usages or zones. You can also apply like code related elements, like you can apply let's see, code usages, whether it's educational or it's to do code analysis. This would also work. And rather than having solid hatch, you can actually associate with hatches. And let me show you that. I mean, right now, all I picked was solid hatches. We can go back and edit this and say, okay, rather than a solid fill, I want to do a crosshatch. And so now I'm showing a different display of the room information. And so this ability to translate room information into a graphic information, I think is amazing. When I started working in architecture as an intern, I remember one of the first things I did was to do this in Illustrator. So I would export this floor plates from AutoCAD into Illustrator, and then I would create all the rectangles with the right color code. This is for space master planning. And it was so tedious and it was so time consuming. Now in Revit, once you have the model, you can just add the rooms and extract, apply color information as needed. Okay, any question on rooms and room parameters and color schemes? The legend, obviously, I'm going to do, because I didn't like this. The legend is something that you can change its shape. Like, if you click on this grip, it will start creating equally distributed columns. So you choose what you think it's more appropriate. 2 rows, 3 rows, etc. And the finish legend, it's here because that's the way I name the color scheme. If you want to call it differently, just go into the color scheme and call this different. Maybe you want to add the room finish instead. Room finish. And so the title in this definition is what gets reported in here. And this is parametrically. So say, for example, this is going to receive a completely new finish. Say that this finish needs to be sheet vinyl 2. And as soon as I create a new entry, Revit is going to create a new color and a new chip in the legend. So I just hit apply here. And notice how immediately there's a new chip color and there's a new color definition. If you don't like that color, which looks a little strong, you can always go back to the color scheme and change that new value to something that's a little lighter.
Caesar, can you repeat that? The adding of the new finish?
Yeah, so I'm going to undo here. This is where I was. So I need a new code for the floor finish in this instructor room. All I need to do is add to the floor finish a new value, and this was SV1, SV2, sheet vinyl 2. That's a new code, or you can put anything else. As soon as you apply it, then Revit is going to automatically assign a new color, a new value, and in the color scheme definition, when you look at the color scheme definition here, this is the new value I created on the fly. So this table and the elements on the screen are parametrically coordinated. If you add new values into the project, they are going to reflect in the scheme definition. I can also add new scheme definitions here. Say, for example, I'm going to use a floor that it's carpet 4. Carpet 4 does not exist in the project yet, but I just added here. And notice in this column that says in use, I have the ones that say no means that these pieces of floor finish are not present in the project. And so CP4 has not been used in the project. I'm going to change the color to maybe something that's yellowish. But this option is available in the drop-down list of choices when you assign a new finish. So if I select this floor now, and now I go into the floor finish, notice that I have CP4 in my list of choices in my drop-down list. And then it's going to automatically add the new value, the new color, the new chip. That makes sense, Cecilia?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, let's save this file. And let's talk about the, let me show you how to export the schedules. So the schedules here are in a tabular display, but you can extract it to do some kind of analysis or send somebody who's not a Revit savvy person. So pick the schedule you want to export, and then you go to File, Export, and scroll down to the bottom, and then you're going to see Reports, and then the Schedule. And this is is only going to export it as a TXT file. So I'm going to save it in my D drive. Yeah, door schedule text, and it's tab delimiter. But then that file, you can also open it in Excel. I don't know if you have Excel on your end, but I'm going to open that text file. So you go to Open, Browse, and then go to my D drive. And here, you want to make sure that you open a text file. Select the door schedule. Hit OK to the choices. And finish. And there you go. I mean, it needs to be formatted to make it look beautiful, but the raw data is there for your use. There is another way to move Excel data into Revit. It's not possible to do out of the box, but if that's something you would like to do, for example, if you're not a Revit user, but you have control over the equipment schedule, or the door schedule, or the finish schedule, and you don't want to do it in Revit, you want to do it in Excel, you can export the schedule into Excel, edit data in Excel, and then bring it back into Revit, and it will populate for you. The name of that app, it's Ideate BIM Link. So what I did is go to the, if you're interested, you can go to the Autodesk store and then look for BIM Link. I used to work for Ideate, and not that I'm endorsing them, but their product is really good. You can download a trial, but you can move the data in and out from Revit, and that's perfect for the non-Revit user. If you have a contractor who's doing, let's say, your equipment schedule with all the metadata that needs to be reported in the documentation, you can do it with BIM Link. I'm just going to play a quick video here silently. I believe this is going to be a import export of room information. This is live fixtures. You export these live fixtures into Excel, edit them in Excel. Here is the metadata in Excel, and these are the fields that you can change. There are fields you cannot change, for example, type or system parameters cannot be changed and they will be grayed out. But anything that it's available in Excel, it's something that you can bring back on. And then you import it back, and all that information will be loaded in the appropriate row. So highly recommended this plugin. All right. It is 7:10. What else? It's about data management. I think, oh, the sheet list. That's another one I'm going to do very quickly. A sheet list is the schedule of all the sheets in the project. And you will place those schedules at the front end of the documentation. And so I don't have a lot of sheets in this project. I only have 2. But to create a sheet list, you go to the View tab, and under Schedules, create the sheet list. These are all the parameters of the sheets. And typically, you just want to see sheet name and number, sheet number, and sheet name. And then hit OK. So here is your schedule of sheets. Obviously, in a big project, you're going to have dozens or hundreds of these elements. And then under the list of schedules, you're going to find the sheet list. Just drag it and drop it. And you can stretch it as needed. And that is your front end schedule of index of drawings. If you don't like this word sheet list, you just rename it. And I'm going to call it index of drawings. You have the sheet number, sheet name. Stretch this a little bit. And maybe it's a little bit longer. And there is your index of drawings. Next class, I'm going to open a real project. And I'm going to show you some of the subtleties that you need to be aware when actually managing data in Revit. So this is a student residence project in Michigan. It's a data set that Autodesk acquired just recently, maybe less than a year. But it's a prototype example of how information should look in an actual project. These type of projects that are for learning don't display the extent of data information that needs to happen in an actual project. So I'm going to share that data set with you for Thursday. So save this file. And for next class, let's see what's on the schedule. I am going to, the detailing. Yes. I'm going to do detailing and sheet detail management. So we continue managing information inside Revit. So we're going to do detail, sheet, and detail management in a single class. We're going to cut up. And then next class, I'm going to do a work with CAD and work sets and work sharing. All right, and we still have the COM class that we'll use for if I'm falling behind in some of these topics. All right, again, if you want to stay over for questions, feel free to do so.